There's no real getting around this at this point. We're talking about protocols, we're talking about players getting removed from their lineups, we're talking about the Olympics. It's a really, really big conversation that goes on, and I'm not going to go out there and make it seem like this one video is encompassing everything that has gone on regarding this topic. What this video is going to be is just a conversation about some of the comments that were made by NHL players regarding the Olympics, regarding protocols, and regarding just the entirety of the league. It was Steve Yzerman at the very beginning, Detroit Red Wings GM, who went out there and pretty much said that the way the NHL, or excuse me, not the NHL, the NFL is going about their protocol situation, only testing players that actually have symptoms. That's kind of the way that he wants to see things go down. Now, obviously, the way the NHL is going about there and doing their thing, it's a lot different from the NFL. Everybody is getting tested all the time. You're getting, I think it's 3 tests a week, and if the point ever comes where you get yourself a positive test, then you're in protocol because you have the thing. However, that does not necessarily mean that the players that are in protocol are necessarily ill. They just have the virus. And so, when you have a system like this in place where anybody that just has that label of being positive gets taken out, regardless on whether or not they're able to play or not, it makes for some really interesting conversation as to whether or not this is the right way to go about things, whether or not the NHL should focus more on allowing the players to play, or focus more on preventing the spread of the virus. I've said this in a previous video, but the NHL is lying somewhere in between right now. They haven't gone full force, okay, our number one priority is to stop the virus, or our number one priority is to actually ice the best lineups possible, giving the fans the best product on the ice available. There are indeed pros and cons to both sides, and a lot of those kind of have to do with money and revenue and all that stuff that billionaires and millionaires care a lot more about than we seem to for some reason. But when it comes to the NHL players themselves, we have ourselves some comments I wanted to go over when it comes to what these players are thinking about regarding the protocols, regarding the Olympics, regarding all this stuff that has been weighing heavily down in our minds the past few days. And I'll start off with that idea of the mental weight that this entire environment has on the players, the fans, and the media alike. This is what Oliver Ekman-Larsson said on the entire problem a few days ago, not just about the Canucks, but for all of us. It's not really about hockey, it's about mental health too. It tears you down a little bit thinking about it all the time. It's a lot of stuff on your mind, but you learn to live with it. And with that, let's go over onto the other comments over here. Alex Killorn, he went out there and had himself a thing in the media a few days ago. The Tampa Bay Lightning's Player Association player representative, Killorn, said he isn't sure if the CDC recommendation for a 5-day quarantine will be implemented into the NHL, but he believes it should be. It seems like Canada is a reason a lot of things don't happen, so I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but it seems reasonable. Now, I'm going to go out there and say this right here. Look, this isn't about sides, it isn't about what you believe in or whatever. It's just the pure fact that when it comes to the recommendations for protocols and people getting tested and all that stuff, Canada is a lot more strict on those things than the US is. Even for us regular folk. Going down to the US, all you need to do is just show up at the border, say what you're doing, and then they'll let you go. If you want to come back into Canada, though, it's all the crazy requirements. Oh, you need to have a test done in the past 72 hours. Oh, if you don't have this test, you're going to have to pay like a $5,000 fine. Once you get in with the ArriveCan app, you have to get yourselves a mandatory test within 24 hours if you're double vaxxed, or if you're not vaxxed, then you have to go out there and quarantine. It's crazy in Canada. And it was part of the reason we even had a whole bunch of concerns with the border and the shutdowns and whatnot, because Canadian players had themselves a really difficult time if they got themselves positive elsewhere. Jesse Puljujarvi getting positive in Seattle was a really big deal, and it cost the Oilers like $200,000 to bring him back for the holidays properly. Killorn said this about the NHL trying to play through the pandemic and how it's not all pretty with so many regular players out. Either something's got to change or we're just going to have to deal with it, and just know that the product is going to be inferior that we are putting out there on the ice. And as we noted, a lot of these players that went out there and sat out were not actually sick, quote unquote. Taylor Hall said this: he didn't have any symptoms when he was in protocols, and that was frustrating having to take the time off. Hopefully, we can start moving along with the pandemic. I don't think we're going to move past it. We have to accept that this is going to be a part of our lives. Hopefully, guys like me don't have to miss 10 days of action when we don't feel any symptoms. And 100%, I get it. There's the entire, okay, well, if you're still asymptomatic, you can still spread it to somebody else, and that somebody else may not be asymptomatic. They might get it a lot worse than you did, and that is what we want to avoid. But the thing is, I mean, that's kind of how all viruses work, isn't it? It's how the common cold works, it's how the flu works, and, I mean, everybody in the NHL except for one person is vaccinated already. When you start picking and choosing what things you're able to enforce, it really muddies the waters, because if you want the NHL to go out there and ice the best product available, you're holding everybody back by having a system like this. But if your goal is to ultimately slow everything down and eradicate the virus from spreading around, then why are you even having a league the way you're having it? Why are you going out there and allowing players to go out to eat at restaurants or go out in public? Or why are there fans in the stands? Because the way the virus has gone around, I mean, it's not NHL games per se that are spreading this around. Players can pick it up when they go outside to get their groceries. Players can pick this up when they go to the library or something. It's gotten to a point here, not just in hockey, but in life, where we're getting a lot of cases, but a lot of people are vaccinated. A lot of people have taken the steps to go out there and protect themselves, and when they do get the virus, it's not that big of a deal as it would have been if they hadn't been vaccinated. At some point, this entire thing is going to be a part of our regular lives in the same way the flu is. And players have gone out there and expressed their frustrations with the way the system is. Brad Marchand's big statement from yesterday kind of sums up a whole bunch of stuff with the escrow too. The NHL and NHLPA can change the rules of the CBA to add a taxi squad so that they don't miss any games and don't lose any money, which has already been agreed upon that the players will pay back in escrow until the owners are made whole from what they lost during the pandemic, regardless of how many games are missed. Yet, they cannot do a taxi squad during the Olympics, so they can honor the agreement they made so that NHL players can go. Please tell me that is not BS. And for all of you who want to pipe back about forfeiting pay while being gone, yeah, it's not a problem. Let the players make their choice. This kind of went off on Twitter. It's got 30,000 likes at the moment, and Brad Marchand, of all people, going out there making this statement is a really big deal because Marchand is one of the best players of the entire gosh darn world. Now, I know a lot of people don't like his on-ice antics and whatnot, but it's still a really interesting point that he's making here that, yeah, even though NHL players might forfeit salary, some of them might forfeit time as well. Let's say somebody gets positive in China. Okay, all of a sudden that's their home for the next 5 weeks. Even though there are all these repercussions, a lot of guys are just going to go out there and say, screw that, I'm going to the Olympics, baby. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do my thing on the grandest stage of them all. And in fact, I think it was kind of missed upon with the hype of the Marchand thing yesterday, but this is what Vladimir Tarasenko said, pretty much highlighting the same ideas. I think every Russian outlet has a dream to play for their national team. It's really bad they took it away from us. I think it's unfair with the Olympics. They give each player a choice, but we don't have a choice in the end, so I think it's very bad for them. I read the Brad Marchand comments, and he said it right. They promised us we can go this year, and then they took it away, but we still play here. With all the restrictions and all the rules, I don't really understand the point where people deciding for you in the last, how many, 18, 22, 8 years? There's way too many players who are dreaming about the Olympics growing up in any country in the world. Whether it's Canada, US, or Russia, Finland, or any other country, you're dreaming of preparing for it, dreaming about being named on the roster, and then, just like that, they say you can't go. I think the players are the ones who're supposed to decide. I agree on this point, but I guess this is business and we just follow what the rules are. Would you go? They ask. Of course. I think you would be surprised how many players would choose to go. And you gotta remember, these things are very intertwined. The NHL has gone out there and postponed so many games because of positive cases. Positive cases are going out there for players that are asymptomatic or just experiencing very mild symptoms. And now the repercussion is they can't go to an Olympic tournament that was already kind of in jeopardy anyway because of a lot of the rules that China enforce when it comes to their own protocols and test result feedback. The NHL is going out there as a result and using the break that they made for the Olympics to reschedule and replay all the games that they had postponed because of all the players that had gone into protocol, which you could debate whether or not they should have been in protocol in the first place. So yeah, that's kind of why this topic is so difficult to talk about. It's so big, and a 10-minute YouTube video like this one, isn't going to do a good enough job in explaining everything the best way that I probably could. So talk to me in the comments because the gameplay is running out here. What are your thoughts about the entire protocol situation, the Olympics, what players are saying in response to these notions over here? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.